Hello, everyone. So you've probably heard that President Trump has fired 17 inspector generals, and Congress is in an uproar because by law he's supposed to inform them 30 days prior. Now he's got the authority to fire the inspector generals, but it has to be in concert with Congress. So let's just talk about this a little bit. And I happen to have a background with dealing with inspector generals in my previous life when I was in the Marine Corps, and I'll go into that a little bit. So what happened was in 1978, the Congress passed an Inspector General Act, and they appointed 12 Inspector Generals, essentially in the big departments and a couple of the agencies. And since then, these Inspector Generals have, mushroomed up to like 72 separate Inspector Generals, and they're spread all across the government. Their main job is waste, fraud, and abuse, right? And then to protect the whistleblowers. But unfortunately, they haven't been doing that job, and there's been precedents that Inspector General's been fired before. President Reagan did it in 1981 when he fired 16 Inspector Generals. And then George Bush did it in 1989, and President Obama also fired Inspector Generals. Or in 2020, President Trump also replaced 5 Inspector Generals. So this is not uncommon. So it's not like there's a big purge going on or anything like that. Yeah, so the main ones that he fired was from the DoD, Department of State, Health and Human Services, the VA, Interior. So these are the big ones that out of the 17 that he got rid of. Now the DoD IG, I've got some experience with the DoD IG. But before I go into that, I just want to talk about some of the issues, the big issues that people have with the Inspector Generals. And I've done an incredible amount of research on this, went through many reports, and there's some common themes across the board that we should consider in determining if what President Trump did was right or wrong. Bottom line up front, I believe he did the right thing. And here's the reasons I believe that. Okay, the Inspector Generals are, they're very important in running these departments because they have an independent oversight. They're supposed to watch out for waste, fraud, and abuse, and protect any whistleblowers and whatnot. But the problem is that although they're supposed to be independent, they really aren't independent because they report to the department head. So for the DoD IG, for example, so there's a DoD IG, then each services have their own IG. So the Army, Navy, and Air Force have 3 stars. The Marine Corps has got a 2-star IG. And they basically report to the service chief and also to the DoD IG. But here's the issue with that. So you've got a 2-star in the Marine Corps. He's going to be very careful of how far he leans forward, because if he leans too far forward, he's going to get spanked. So he's really not independent. You may think they are, but these people, they have a tremendous amount of pressure to downplay the findings. Or in some cases, they'll just completely just avoid the investigation. They'll put so many obstacles in front of the person that the person gets tired and he's like, I'm done with this. Number 2, the thing that they don't have is they have a lack of enforcement power, right? So they'll come up with the determination, they make recommendations, but they're it's really up to the service chief to implement the recommendations, or the department, the secretary of that department to implement those recommendations, right? So there's retaliation to the whistleblower issues. So many of the whistleblowers have come out and said, hey, this is what's going wrong, or I have a problem here, and he elevates it to the IG level. There's retaliation. And there's been many cases where individuals have been retaliated against by the department, within the department, or by the service chiefs themselves. There was a case about 3 commandants removed, and the commandant was found guilty of undue command influence. But the Secretary of Defense and the President allowed him to retire at the 4-star rank, which is absurd, right? Because if he's found guilty, he should be held to a standard, but he wasn't. And then there's also the budget and resource limitations. Obviously, if you want to squeeze the IG, you underfund them and understaff them, so they become ineffective. And then there's delays in reporting. Sometimes cases will take years to complete. By then it's forgotten. It goes to the back burner, and people typically forget about that, right? And there's conflicts of interest because the IGs are closely tied to the department secretary or the service chief. So there could be a conflict of interest there also. So which creates a potential for bias. So these are some of the issues that we need to be aware of. Now, having said all that, we need, how do we solve this? We solve this, but before I go into how do we solve this, I'm going to tell you from personal experience. One of the reasons that I retired from the military was after my second combat tour, I noticed that there's a lot of this backslapping going on. Hey, you put me in for a Bronze Star, I'll put you in for a Bronze Star type thing. And there's a lot of officers that were getting Bronze Stars that, and in my opinion, didn't earn them, nor did they deserve them. Officers awarding were involved with giving each other these medals, right? So when they come out of Afghanistan, they got a big rack. But the real problem that I had was the combat action ribbon. For an infantryman, the combat action ribbon is like a cross for a Catholic, right? It's a big deal for us. And my Marines and I were fighting about 100 miles away from this FOB where the headquarters was, and they decided that anybody that was at this FOB was going to be awarded the combat action ribbon. Now, the rules are very clear in the combat action ribbon that you have to receive and return fire. You just can't be in the general vicinity and end up getting the combat action ribbon. Nonetheless, I didn't agree with that. And I told my senior commander that I don't agree with this decision. And when we get back home, I'm going to bring it up. When we got back home, I brought it up. And they used some innovative techniques to blunt this whole thing. First of all, at the division and at the MEF level, there's IGs, right? Which all report up to this service IG. I got called in by the division IG, and he's like, do you realize that you're filing this report essentially against the MEF CG? I said, absolutely I do. And he said, it's not going to turn out favorable for you. So basically, he's telling me to pull this thing back. I said, I'm not going to pull anything back, Let's just see what happens. And so that's the first thing. The second thing they do is they'll prefer charges on you. They'll use his UCMJ to blunt you, and as soon as they prefer charges on you, the response to the IG report is this guy's trying to get out of a violation of the UCMJ. That's why he filed an IG report. That's another technique they use to blunt these things, right? But the bottom line is nothing got done. The people that got these Bronze Stars and stuff that wrote each other up for, they stayed in the Marine Corps. The combat action ribbon, none of them were rescinded, not one. And ultimately, it led to my demise in the Marine Corps, and that's fine, because I left with my honor and integrity, the bottom line. Those people that are wearing these fake medals and stuff, good on you. So my point being is the IG did absolutely nothing whatsoever trying to remedy this situation. They were more concerned about protecting the image of the institution and the Marine Corps, if this ever got out, that officers had basically colluded to give themselves awards. So that's one issue, right? So that was their main focus because they're always trying to protect the institution. And I think that's just sad because what happens is the troops see this stuff, and the troops saw it in spades. You've got Marines that are out there for 3.5, 4 months up in the mountains fighting, and you got some zipperhead sitting in a fob eating ice cream, and they both get combat action ribbons. That's highly unfair, and it's sad, really. But nonetheless, that was my experience with the IG. That they will blunt any investigation that they need to, and it really comes from the chain of command, top down, and they'll have a discussion. They'll say, yeah, we need to figure this one out. And they do it in code, right? They do it in this language that nobody really understands. Or they'll have one of your contemporaries, as happened at the division, when he called me in, I believe it's like a G7, and he said, you realize what you're getting into? I said, absolutely I realize. I'm not scared of the 3-star. What the hell is he going to do to me? Max he can do to me is I'll retire. And that's what ended up happening. I mean, and in my case, they threw a bunch of charges on me, and they were all bullshit. One charge they threw on me was assault. And the assault was that I had grabbed my radio operator, Corporal Guttrell, under fire and pulled him towards me. That was the assault charge. And then the second one they claimed was conduct unbecoming an officer because I used profanity. I used the F word while in uniform. So when I went up for the hearing, my point was, yeah, I did pull the radio operator towards me, but there was no malicious intent or harm in that. And if that's the case, I remember the Commandant of the Marine Corps slapped me in the back. Well, that's assault too. So, if this goes further, I'm going to call him on the witness stand, put him under oath, and see if he's ever assaulted anybody. So, the JAG guys looked around. They're like, yeah, this is BS, And they basically said, this one ain't going anywhere. And the next one was conduct unbecoming an officer. I said, yeah, I've used profanity. Absolutely I have, And in the infantry, it's very common. Everybody's used the F word and all that stuff, but it's never been directed at the individual. It's just... So nonetheless, my response was, yeah, no problem. But, the commanding general has also used the F word in uniform. So if this goes further, I'm going to bring him on the witness stand and ask him if he's ever used profanity while in uniform. And they looked around. They're like, yep, he's right. He's absolutely right. And so they kind of looked around. They said, oh. And all this stuff was dismissed. And I was so freaking pissed off, how the Marine Corps handled this situation, how they treated me to muzzle me, that I just walked out. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I really don't give a shit. Then they tried to screw me over and say, hey, you got to go to Iraq. And I told my commanding general, I'm not going anywhere. I'm done. I'm not fighting for this gun club anymore. I'm finished. And he said, what's going to happen? He's going to I said, he can court-martial me all he wants. I'm not scared of that guy. And eventually I ended up getting a lawyer, an outside lawyer, and the lawyer called up Headquarters Marine Corps, the Commandant's SJA, and told them, hey, we got this, in those days I was considered like a war hero, or we've got this officer making all these claims, and do you want to go in 60 minutes and talk about them? 8 hours later, my retirement papers came in. I was gone. So the point being is, and on my way out, I told my commanding general, who's a good guy. My commanding general was a good guy, but his boss had much to be desired. He's a weasel, in my opinion. But nonetheless, I told my commanding general that, let me tell you something. You keep promoting these people, one day they're going to make a big mess. And unfortunately, I wasn't wrong. And that big mess happened to be the Kabul debacle, the withdrawal. It was the same cast of characters that were involved in it. Because I could tell these guys... they were trying to build their legacy. They're more, it's more important for them to write books, to read books, to write books, and bullshit awards on their chest. That's what their leadership was all about, rather than taking care of Marines. And I can go into that, in subsequent podcasts. But my point is that IG didn't do anything, just try to blunt me, so I'm all for removing these IGs. And I'll tell you something else. Trump is pretty sharp because he's playing, he's playing backgammon, chess, and checkers at the same time. And these guys can't keep up with him. And he's been very clear that he's going to come in there and he's going to dismantle the deep state. And in my opinion, the IGs are a firewall for the deep state. And that's what he's doing. He's gotten rid of them. Now the next thing is, once the IGs are gone, he's going to go after some other people, and hopefully he goes after the right people and cleans this mess up that we've got going on. And it's a serious mess. It's been going on for decades. This is nothing new. I retired back in 2004, and that was under President Bush's time frame. So yeah, and I read a lot of commentary that Obama did this and this guy did this and this guy. They're all the same, man. They're all the same because they want to safeguard their own institutions for their own benefit. That's what this game is all about. That's exactly what they did to President Trump. Now, at the time when all this was going on, I didn't really understand it, and I kind of thought, Department of Justice and all these other departments are going after him, so maybe there's something there. And come to find out, there's absolutely nothing there. Went after him. Now, granted, he made some mistakes too. I don't dispute that. But at the end of the day, all these departments colluded together and went after him. And who the hell knows what happened with that two assassination attempts? I have no idea. Nonetheless, these people have done this before. So I myself have been targeted, as I mentioned. Because if you go against the institution or the system and you speak the truth and you stand against these people, they will weaponize everything they have, and they'll come after you and your family. That's how they operate. Luckily, I had enough years to retire, and I did, and I left the Marine Corps. And then just recently, they sent the FBI to my house. Don't they have better things to do? Chase actual criminals and come into my house, and they want to talk to me about my online posting, which there's nothing that I've posted online, and it's all there. You can look at it. That is anti-American. I've been very critical of certain things, and I'm critical because of my passion for this country and my passion for the Constitution. Everything that I've said, it aligns with the Constitution. So these people are dangerous. And I'm glad the president is going through and spring cleaning, every government department and getting rid of these people. And evidently he said that, there's deep state out there. I don't know much about it. I'm sure there is. I've read the book about government gangsters by Kash Patel, and he's named even some general officers in that book. And I did a podcast on it a few back. You can go back and check that one out. But nonetheless, this is important stuff. It's basically we have to get the foundation right to continue building for our future and the future for our children and our grandchildren. I think it's very important. So they don't get treated like many of us have. That's all I got. Stay rugged, stay united. Khan out.